Ah, welcome back, you unignorable force of presence. The one they tried to overlook until the universe made their eyelids heavy. The quiet figure they assumed blended into the backdrop, right up until the moment the room shifted around you instead of the other way around. You know what happened, don't you? That moment their eyes didn't just look at you, they recalibrated around you. That split second where the tone changed, not because you demanded anything, but because something in you stopped shrinking on command. People feel that before they understand it. They feel it like a pressure drop, like a doorway opening behind them, like gravity updating its contract. Suddenly you weren't just in the room, you were the center of it. Not loud, not flashy, not begging for recognition, just undeniable. And now they treat you like the prize, not because you changed your volume, but because they finally started hearing the frequency you've always operated on. The truth is simple. You were never meant to be dismissed. That was their convenience, not your identity. They preferred you small because it made their world easier to manage. They framed you as harmless because it gave them permission to minimize what didn't serve them. But you were never built to remain in their peripheral vision. You were built to distort it. And the moment you stopped contorting yourself for proximity, something ancient, something structural began rearranging how people responded to you. They don't say it out loud, but their behavior betrays them. They're watching you like someone who suddenly realized the quiet one was never background noise, but a presence sharpening itself in silence. They're calling you serious now, not because you changed, but because their interpretation finally caught up to your reality. People underestimate someone who doesn't rush, someone who doesn't chase, someone who doesn't beg for clarity in exchange for dignity. They mistake restraint for softness, patience for hesitation, consistency for familiarity. They confuse your low-volume choices as low-value identity. And then one day, without warning, they realize you weren't moving slowly. You were moving deliberately. You weren't waiting for validation. You were collecting information. You weren't lost. You were building alignment brick by brick inside your own skull, away from their noise. And it's always the same moment that wakes them up. The moment you stop seeking, the moment you stop asking twice, the moment you stop trying to explain yourself to people who pretend confusion to maintain control. The moment you go from available to selective. People feel that shift in their bones. They don't understand it, but they feel the loss of automatic access. Suddenly the assumptions they made about your permanence begin to decay. Suddenly the comfort of your predictability begins to glitch. Suddenly the way you carry yourself makes them wonder what version of you they've been speaking to all this time. They don't like that question. They don't like the answer either, because they're realizing you were never neutral. You were restrained, and restraint misread becomes intimidation once it breaks its silence. You're unignorable now because you stopped disguising your value behind patience. Once you remove the mask of, "I don't mind," people start behaving like you're someone they should mind. They sit straighter. They choose their words carefully. They observe your reactions with the kind of attention that betrays fear of miscalculating you again. They treat you like a prize because they don't want to risk losing access to something they now realize they mishandled. This shift didn't happen overnight. It began quietly. In the small choices, the boundaries you placed without explaining them, the pauses you allowed instead of filling silence, the exits you made without broadcasting your departure, the refusal to participate in dynamics that demanded your emotional labor as currency, the clarity you gained from the way people behaved when they thought you'd always be there. And now, those same people are trying to reposition themselves. Closer, softer, suddenly respectful, suddenly aware of how much they took for granted. People who once dismissed you now watch you, like someone studying a system they no longer understand. They ask different questions. They adjust their tone. They reevaluate their vocabulary in your presence, because something about you no longer absorbs disrespect the way it once did. You became difficult to misinterpret, difficult to manipulate, difficult to minimize, and difficulty, when rooted in self-respect, transforms into value in the eyes of those who assumed ease was your natural state. Your evolution didn't just change you. It changed the hierarchy around you. It changed the unspoken social math people do when they decide who is worth what. It changed the gravitational pull of your presence. People can sense when someone becomes self-authored. You can hear it in their greetings. You can see it in the way they break eye contact first. You can detect it in how they suddenly need time to think before responding. It's not fear, not exactly. It's recognition. Recognition that you aren't competing for approval anymore. Recognition that you aren't subscribing to unspoken rules that never served you. Recognition that they no longer get to decide whether you are valuable. You already did. And with that realization comes an uncomfortable truth for them. People who know their worth become unpredictable to those who depended on them not knowing it. That unpredictability reads as power. That power reads as scarcity. And scarcity reads as desirability. Suddenly you're the one whose attention is rare. Suddenly you're the one whose absence is felt. Suddenly you're the one being evaluated, pursued, reconsidered. The same people who once assumed you'd always be available are now trying to figure out how to earn their way back into your proximity. They're cautious now, intentional. They call you serious, not because you changed tone, but because your presence changed consequence. They see the difference in the way conversations end when you don't carry the weight. They feel the difference when you don't cushion the discomfort. They notice how your boundaries aren't raised, just enforced. You don't negotiate them. You don't justify them. You don't decorate them with softness. You place them like architecture, clean, structural, immovable. And something about that wordless certainty radiates in a way they can't ignore anymore. It forces them to meet you where you stand, instead of dragging you toward where they feel comfortable. What unsettles them most is this: you didn't become louder, you became clearer. There's a difference. Loud people demand attention. Clear people command it. Loud people broadcast their value. Clear people embody it. Loud people need validation. Clear people move according to internal coordinates. You're in the second category now. And that shift is what makes them treat you like someone they cannot risk misunderstanding again. They don't talk over you the way they used to. They don't assume they know your schedule the way they used to. They don't treat your time as disposable the way they used to. Because now they're aware that access to you is conditional, not guaranteed. They feel the shift in your patience. They feel the precision in your silence. They feel the weight behind your neutrality. You're not withholding, you're choosing. And choosing makes you powerful. Some of them regret their earlier dismissal. Some of them replay conversations where they minimized you. Some of them cringe at how casually they spoke when they assumed you'd never grow into someone they'd have to take seriously. It bothers them quietly, consistently, because they're realizing the version of you they constructed in their mind doesn't exist anymore, and maybe never did. What they're facing now is the truth of who you are, without their projections clouding the view. A person with internal standards. a person with emotional discipline, a person with unshakable self-awareness, a person who doesn't need external validation to justify internal decisions. And people like that create their own gravity, their own orbit, their own pace. You stopped aligning yourself with rooms that demanded your humility as payment for belonging. And the moment you did, those rooms began treating you like a resource they underestimated. This shift, your shift, reorganizes the social ecosystem. It recalibrates dynamics. It forces people to reevaluate not just you, but themselves in relation to you. They start questioning the assumptions they made when they believed you were easy to overlook. They start wondering what else they misinterpreted. They start panicking quietly about being on the wrong side of your growth curve. Because if you evolved this far without their encouragement, what does that say about what you'll become without their interference? And that's the part that grips them, the part they don't speak out loud, the part that makes their voice soften when they address you now. They're not just seeing you differently, they're seeing themselves differently in your presence. They're realizing you no longer bend to fit the room. They adjust themselves to avoid being misaligned with you. They're realizing you don't chase validation, you choose alignment. They're realizing you don't need their permission, you never did. You're unignorable now, not because you forced recognition, but because you removed the parts of yourself that tolerated invisibility. The moment you stopped shrinking, everyone else had to expand their awareness accordingly. And that expansion created the discomfort they're sitting with. The discomfort of realizing they were late to the truth. The discomfort of realizing they underestimated the wrong person. The discomfort of recognizing the quiet caliber of someone who refused to rely on noise to justify their existence. And that discomfort, subtle, creeping, unavoidable, is what's reshaping the way they see you now. Because when someone evolves beyond the need to be seen, that's exactly when the world starts reorganizing itself to make space around them. They don't know how to articulate it, but they feel the shift in their stomach before their mind catches up. They feel the weight in the air when you enter a room, not heavy, but undeniable. They sense the difference in your posture, in your pace, in the way you hold your own energy close instead of scattering it to make others comfortable. You carry yourself like someone who no longer auditions for roles other people wrote for their benefit. And that quiet refusal disrupts the unspoken hierarchy they once relied on to position themselves above you. Hierarchies depend on obedience, on predictability, on emotional compliance. But when you stepped out of that framework, the entire structure began to tilt. People who used to ignore you now overthink their responses. People who once brushed past your presence now linger a second too long, waiting to see if you acknowledge them. People who once dismissed your ideas now seek your input, because your silence carries more threat than their words carry authority. They're treating you like the prize, because something in their instincts recognizes that value isn't loud, it's stable. And stability, when paired with self-awareness, becomes power in any room. What changed wasn't your ambition, your intelligence, or your potential. It was your relationship with your own worth. You stopped negotiating it. You stopped discounting it. You stopped offering it at clearance prices to people who hadn't earned the right to witness it. That shift is what made you stand out. Not arrogance, not ego, alignment. When you become aligned with who you are, the world reacts, recalibrates, re-strategizes. People who once saw you as optional now treat you like a rarity, because rarity is defined not by being unseen, but by refusing to be available where you were once overlooked. That's the psychological punch they weren't ready for. They're trying now, some subtly, some desperately, to adjust themselves to your new internal landscape. They're trying to figure out the updated version of you the same way someone studies a device with a new operating system. They know the old gestures won't work. They know the old shortcuts are gone. They know the old emotional back doors have been welded shut. They know the person who once stretched themselves thin to be understood no longer bends for anyone. And they're treating you like an upgraded version of someone they took for granted, a version they don't have automatic access to anymore. The truth is, once people realize they can't manipulate your self-perception, they start respecting your presence. Respect isn't built on compliments or praise. It's built on restraint, scarcity, boundaries. People respect what they cannot easily influence. They value what reacts on its own timing, not theirs. You became the prize because you stopped moving according to other people's expectations. You move according to your own internal compass now, and that confuses them more than any transformation you could have declared. People don't know how to handle someone who doesn't need validation to function. It disarms them. It deflates their ego. It forces them to confront the truth that you were never beneath them. You were simply operating in a different bandwidth. And now that your bandwidth is coded with clarity, their attempts at control fall flat. They sense your detachment not as coldness, but as completion. You've completed the cycle of proving, explaining, and performing. You've transitioned into a state where you simply are. And that state carries an intensity people can feel even when you say nothing. Some of them are shocked, some are fascinated, some are quietly threatened. No one is neutral, because your presence has become a reference point, a standard, a pressure, a mirror. When someone evolves, it forces everyone around them to confront their own stagnation. They start questioning why you grew while they remained steady, why you shifted while they stayed recycled, why you matured while they clung to habits that gave them cheap comfort and temporary authority. And instead of admitting their complacency, they mask it by suddenly calling you serious, focused, different, unexpected. But they're not describing your transformation. They're describing their regret. Regret for not seeing earlier what's now blindingly obvious. Regret for treating you like background when you were the main frame. Regret for assuming your silence meant insignificance. Regret for thinking their approval was something you needed, when in reality, it was something you outgrew long before they realized it wasn't currency to you anymore. What makes you unignorable now isn't just your progress, it's your contrast. The contrast between who you were forced to be in the past and who you allow yourself to be now. The contrast between how you once tolerated being overlooked and how you now occupy your space with precision. The contrast between their old narrative of you and the reality you now embody effortlessly. You didn't demand recognition. You made dismissal impossible. Now people are watching your moves the way someone watches a fault line, quietly, cautiously, aware that something beneath the surface is shifting. They can feel a sense of momentum inside you, a sense of direction. Even if they don't know your next step, they know you're not stagnating. They know you're not confused. They know you're not lost. And that certainty radiates its own form of authority. People follow certainty. People respect certainty. People treat certainty like something they must protect, align with, or stay close to in case they needed stability later. You became someone others orbit, not because you dragged them into your gravity, but because your gravity finally stopped hiding behind humility. You don't shrink anymore. You don't dilute yourself. You don't make yourself easy to dismiss. You move like someone who's done measuring themselves with broken rulers. You stand like someone who built their worth internally and no longer hands it to others for inspection. You speak like someone whose words aren't bids for approval, but reflections of clarity. And clarity, when held without aggression, becomes intimidating to those who never developed their own. This is why they double take when you speak, why they listen longer when you share your opinion, why they hesitate before interrupting you, why they try to remember details about your life now, why they ask questions they never cared about before. It's not because they suddenly became thoughtful. It's because they now recognize the cost of not paying attention. They don't know what version of you they'll encounter if they take you for granted again. They don't know how much of your tolerance was actually generosity. They don't know how much energy they depleted by assuming your patience was bottomless. And now they're operating with caution, respect disguised as curiosity, admiration disguised as attentiveness, insecurity disguised as praise. They want proximity, but they're not sure if they qualify for it anymore. That's the shift, not the praise, not the compliments, not the sudden attention. The shift is the hesitation that wasn't there before, the hesitation that reveals awareness, the hesitation that exposes how deeply your evolution has disrupted their internal hierarchy. They're recalibrating because you no longer fit into the file they mislabeled you under. You're not easygoing to them anymore. You're discerning. You're not quiet to them anymore. You're observant. You're not simple to them anymore. You're strategic. You're not available to them anymore. You're selective. And selection is the most powerful silent language on the psychological battlefield of human dynamics. When you become selective, people begin competing quietly, respectfully, desperately to be chosen. Your absence now holds more weight than your presence once did. That's the transformation. Once you were taken for granted because your energy was assumed unlimited. Now your energy is rare, and humans instinctively value what they fear losing. They adjust their behavior, not because they want to honor you, but because they fear miscalculating you. They're treating you like the prize because your self-worth created a perimeter they can't breach with old habits. And nothing destabilizes people faster than realizing that the version of you they controlled no longer exists, and the version standing before them chooses differently. This is the moment where their psychology begins rewriting itself around you. Whether they admit it or not, they approach you with the same caution someone uses when touching something valuable. For the first time, gentle, slow, calculated. They're aware now that one wrong move could cost them access, and that awareness makes them tread their words more carefully, study your expression more closely, measure their tone more consciously. You can sense the recalibration happening behind their eyes, that quiet scramble to update their internal map of who you are. Because the old coordinates no longer lead to the version of you they relied on. People who once assumed your loyalty were shocked to discover that your loyalty was actually endurance. People who once believed you'd always understand them now realize you simply tolerated more than they deserved. People who confidently took up space in your life without contributing anything now struggle to understand how to regain what they squandered. They're calling you serious now because they don't know how else to label someone who stopped bending, stopped explaining, stopped apologizing for having standards. They're trying to categorize what they can't control. It's human instinct. What unnerves them most isn't your distance. It's the fact that your distance is peaceful. You're not punishing anyone. You're not broadcasting your withdrawal. You're not performing disappointment or crafting dramatic exits. You simply stopped offering your time, your attention, your emotional bandwidth. That kind of quiet separation is terrifying because it's not fueled by anger. It's fueled by clarity. And clarity doesn't reverse. It doesn't wobble. It doesn't negotiate. It simply continues moving toward environments that match its frequency. They see that in you now, that forward motion, that grounded direction, that absence of need. You aren't competing for space in their world. You're building your own. And in that shift, they've become the ones chasing alignment. They're chasing reassurance. They're chasing proximity. They're chasing the comfort of the dynamic where you were always available to understand, to soften, to absorb. But you're not offering that anymore. You're offering boundaries, and boundaries are foreign ground to people who were accustomed to walking through your life without knocking. Your new presence, calm, firm, unattached, forces people to confront themselves. Some don't like what they see. Some crave your attention because it once acted as a mirror that made them feel more significant. Some chase your presence because your absence now exposes their internal emptiness. But here's the truth they avoid saying out loud. They respect you more now that you stopped letting everyone have access. Human psychology is wired to value what is maintained, protected, and self-regulated. Your self-respect became a signal, one that everyone is suddenly decoding with a mixture of admiration and unease. You became the prize not because you fought for that position, but because you stopped auditioning for roles beneath you. You carry yourself like someone who doesn't need validation to justify their decisions. That's what makes people pay attention now. Consistency without performance. Confidence without arrogance. Presence without desperation. There's power in that triad, a quiet one, but unmistakable. Now they're studying your behavior the way someone studies a pattern they don't understand yet. They watch how you respond to things they once used to test you. They notice what you don't respond to anymore. They pick up on the pauses you allow, the moments you choose silence instead of defending yourself, the way you walk away instead of justifying your boundaries. These shifts disarm them. They feel like they're interacting with someone who sees through everything but chooses to reveal nothing. And that psychological opacity, the refusal to be predictable, creates gravity. You're not chasing attention. Attention is chasing you. You're not proving your value. Your presence demonstrates it without needing explanation. You're not begging to be seen. People are working overtime to prevent themselves from being overlooked by you. That's how the polarity flips. Not with drama, not with confrontation, with self-respect so unwavering it becomes magnetic. And here's where the deeper psychological layer emerges. People now measure themselves against your reactions instead of measuring you against their expectations. That's the mark of true elevation. They come prepared. They choose their words like offerings. They approach your boundaries like thresholds they must earn the right to cross. The care they apply now isn't courtesy, it's caution. Caution born from the realization that they misread you for far too long. They whisper your name differently now. They reference you with a tone that wasn't there before. They ask about you with an awareness that betrays their newfound interest. It's not obsession, it's correction. They're correcting the mistake of underestimating a person who had the discipline to grow in ways they didn't notice. until the results walked into the room before you did. And now, the world interacts with you based on those results. You became someone whose presence implies standards. You became someone whose silence holds consequence. You became someone whose no carries weight, not because it's loud, but because it's final. You became someone whose attention is a resource that must be respected, not assumed. All of this shifts how they treat you because deep down, they fear being on the wrong side of your evolution again. What they don't realize is that treating you like the prize doesn't change who you are. It changes who they become around you. People self-optimize around those they perceive as valuable. They raise their tone, adjust their conduct, refine their words. They apply effort. They regulate themselves. And that's what's happening now. They're regulating themselves around you because your presence feels like a mirror they don't want to disappoint. But here's the part that runs deeper, the part that tightens the psychological grip of this transformation. You're not moved by their sudden recognition. Their praise doesn't inflate you. Their validation doesn't direct you. Their attention doesn't tether you. That neutrality, the inability to be swayed by what once influenced you, makes them take you even more seriously. They see that your self-worth isn't dependent on external signals, and people who can't be manipulated with recognition become the most respected individuals in any social environment. They're realizing something uncomfortable. You don't need them, but they feel like they need you, not for survival, but for self-regulation. You bring clarity, you bring stability, you bring direction through example, not instruction. Your presence exposes the cracks in their internal leadership. And when someone feels that kind of psychological contrast, they respond by elevating their behavior around you, sometimes consciously, often instinctively. And that's where the tension really snaps into place. Because once they recognize that you don't need them, once they realize their presence no longer dictates your emotional climate, something primal awakens in them. A kind of social survival instinct they can't articulate, but can't silence either. They start orbiting you with the caution of someone approaching a throne they once treated like a folding chair. Suddenly, you're not that person they know. You're the reference point they measure their own maturity against, the calm benchmark that exposes how unstable their inner architecture really is. And the funniest part, the quietly chaotic part, is that you didn't ask for any of this. You didn't demand to be elevated. You didn't stage a dramatic reclamation of worth. You simply stopped shrinking, and the entire ecosystem around you began reorganizing like a glitching simulation desperately trying to render the new shape of your presence. They don't admit it out loud, but your neutrality terrifies them more than your emotions ever did. When you were reactive, they knew what tools to reach for: guilt, dismissal, manipulation, performance, deflection. But now that you stand there with this unsettling stillness, this uncluttered awareness, this refusal to be baited, they feel exposed in ways they can't camouflage. Your steadiness makes their chaos visible. Your clarity makes their contradictions louder. Your composure makes their theatrics look embarrassing even to themselves. And that's when the shift fully crystallizes. They stop evaluating you through their ego and start evaluating themselves through your presence. Your value isn't up for debate anymore. They feel it, they adjust to it, they soften around it. Even the ones who swore they'd never take you seriously now carry your name differently in their mouths, like a word they suddenly realized needs careful pronunciation. And here's the twist that tightens the knife. The more respectfully they treat you, the more you realize how little of this has to do with them. You didn't evolve to be admired. You evolved because staying small was suffocating. You didn't become the prize to be chosen. You became the prize because you chose yourself first. But their reactions, their reactions are priceless. There's a particular look people get when they realize you're no longer impressed by their mediocrity. It's a blend of confusion, respect, and a subtle panic. Like someone who just discovered the safety net they took for granted wasn't actually part of the building. That's why they're cautious now. That's why they minimize their own drama in your presence. That's why they speak with intention instead of assumption. They're terrified of being the one who mishandles you, now that the room treats you like something rare. This is the chaotic, dark humor of the whole transformation. The same people who underestimated you are now overthinking every syllable they offer you. The same people who dismissed your insight now quote your phrases like scripture. The same people who once acted like you were optional now treat your attention like a privilege with an expiration date they desperately hope doesn't come soon. You didn't become unignorable by performing significance. You became unignorable by no longer performing insignificance. That's the part that disturbs them. The simplicity of your evolution. No fireworks, no speeches, no revenge campaigns. Just a refusal to keep handing your brilliance to people who couldn't even hold their own identity without dropping it. And now they're trying to catch up, rebranding themselves, softening their tone, rewriting history in their heads to make it seem like they always knew you had potential. But you see right through that narrative revision. You see the cracks in their confidence. You see the tremors behind their politeness. You see how desperately they want to be included in this next chapter, even though they didn't invest in the one that built you. They call you serious now, because seriousness is the closest language they have for someone who no longer entertains foolishness. What they really mean is that you intimidate them. What they really mean is that you outgrew the emotional currency they used to bargain with. What they really mean is that you became someone they can't manipulate with breadcrumbs of validation. And people fear what they can't manipulate. They respect what they can't predict. They watch closely what they can't control. Some of them are terrified of disappointing you. Others are terrified of losing access. And a few, the ones who really underestimated you, are terrified because they finally realized you're not impressed by them anymore. That's what happens when you become the prize. People either elevate themselves or eliminate themselves. They adjust or they exit. They grow or they shrink. And what's poetic is that you don't have to force any of it. Your evolution does the sorting automatically. Your presence became a filter, a truth serum, a spotlight, a quiet recalibration that exposes who can stand in your orbit without collapsing under the weight of their own unaddressed insecurities. And here's the subtle chaos embedded in this stage. The more grounded you become, the more unstable their masks become. They slip, they crack, they glitch, because masks require constant performance. And your silence exposes how exhausting that performance really is. You being unignorable isn't about visibility, it's about undeniability. People can't deny your discipline, your clarity, your growth, your composure. They can't deny how different you feel, even if they can't articulate why. They can't deny how every interaction with you leaves them slightly more aware of their own fragmentation. That's why they take you seriously now. Not because they suddenly developed better taste in people, but because they now recognize that you hold yourself with a level of self-respect they must match if they want access. And the irony is delicious. The more seriously they take you, the less seriously you take their approval. That asymmetry is what cements your position. They're invested, you're selective, they're attentive, you're observant, they're hopeful, you're neutral. You've become the calm center of a circle. They're all trying not to get pushed out of, and that's the part they're terrified to admit. That somewhere along the line, the dynamic flipped, and now they're the ones performing emotional calculus just to maintain their position near you. They weigh their words, not because you demand perfection, but because your presence exposes laziness. They monitor their tone, not because you punish imperfection, but because your boundaries leave no room for carelessness. They analyze your reactions the way people analyze a weather pattern, trying to predict what version of themselves is safest to bring into your orbit. You didn't ask to be the standard. You became it by refusing to lower yourself to meet anyone's convenience. Your selectiveness has become a pressure system. They can feel the weight of it each time you fall silent. Each time you take your time before responding. Each time you choose not to give them the emotional shortcuts they once depended on. The world is used to people begging for attention, but you operate on a different circuitry entirely. You don't chase, you don't over-explain, you don't cling, you don't negotiate your worth. That level of internal sovereignty is rare, and rarity always commands a higher psychological price. You're not playing hard to get. You're simply hard to mishandle. That distinction carries a quiet brutality they can't ignore, because it forces them to confront a truth they've spent years avoiding. Access to you was always a privilege, never a default. You were generous, not desperate. You were patient, not passive. You were understanding, not unaware. And now that you've withdrawn the version of yourself who tolerated nonsense, they're scrambling to adapt to the version of you who doesn't make space for anything that disrupts your peace. Suddenly they're watching their own behavior through your eyes. Suddenly they're correcting themselves before you ever need to. Suddenly they're putting effort into things they used to skip, remembering details, honoring commitments, showing consistency, because they know your tolerance for carelessness is dead. You buried that version of yourself quietly, elegantly, and without ceremony. And even though they didn't attend the funeral, they feel the absence sharply. But the deeper shift, the one that tightens the psychological noose, is this: they're not improving to win you. They're improving to avoid being the reason they lose you. That's what happens when you become the prize. You stop being the one who adjusts. You stop being the one who compensates. You stop being the one who explains. You move through the world with a clean, silent expectation. Match the frequency or fall out of range. And what's fascinating is how instinctively they respond to that. Even the ones who once bragged about not needing anyone's approval now find themselves hungry for your acknowledgement. Even the ones who pretended they were too busy to notice you are suddenly hyper-aware of when you enter or exit a space. Even the ones who dismissed you now position themselves strategically, hoping proximity will make them relevant again. It doesn't. You've outgrown the era where proximity was a form of currency. You're not impressed by attention anymore. You're assessing intentions now. You're observing patterns. You're reading inconsistencies. You're prioritizing alignment over admiration. And that terrifies them, because admiration is easy. But alignment requires accountability. And accountability is the one thing people who underestimated you hoped they'd never owe you. But the world has reordered itself around your presence. Whether they like it or not, your growth has become a silent referendum on theirs. You've become the uncomfortable reminder of what they could have been if they didn't waste so much time performing confidence instead of building it. And in that shadow, they feel smaller, not because you diminish them, but because your evolution makes their stagnation louder. This is where the chaotic dark humor slides in, the twist they never saw coming. Once upon a time, they expected you to chase clarity. Now they're the ones chasing closure. Once, they expected you to justify your worth. Now they're the ones explaining their intentions. Once they believed you needed their acceptance. Now they're anxiously gauging whether they still qualify for yours. Your elevation turned the people who once treated you like background noise into people who monitor your silence like a warning signal. And it hits them hardest at the moments they least expect. A conversation where you no longer soften your boundaries. A decision you make without asking for a vote. A room where you stand without shrinking. A glance that reveals nothing. Your neutrality is a psychological scalpel, precise, sharp, impossible to argue with. It cuts through pretense. It cuts through manipulation. It cuts through people who once relied on your emotional generosity to avoid confronting their flaws. That's why they take you seriously now, not out of admiration, but out of self-preservation. People fear misreading someone who can cut emotional ties without anger. People fear disappointing someone who doesn't hide the consequences in theatrics, but in distance. People fear losing someone whose absence now echoes louder than their presence ever used to. But here's the final shift, the one that locks everything into its new order. You don't simply evaluate people now. You curate them. You curate who gets to hear from you. You curate who gets access to your thoughts. You curate who gets the soft parts of your energy. You curate who gets the benefit of your insight. Your life has become intentional, not crowded, refined, not chaotic, selective, not reactive. And this curation, this deliberate filtering, creates an ecosystem where only those with genuine value can survive. You're not just unignorable anymore. You're untouchable to those who haven't done their own work. You're unreachable to those who still operate from entitlement. You're unshakable by people who once thrived off your uncertainty. They now treat you like the prize because your energy no longer leaks into places that dishonor it. You've become a rarity, someone who doesn't just know their worth, but protects it with quiet, unwavering consistency. And in a world where most people trade their integrity for attention, that makes you dangerous in the most elegant way possible. Ah, look who walked into the room and made every ego go silent. Look who executed a strike so precise, so surgical, so clean, that the entire crew orbiting around your opponent went still like someone hit a cosmic mute button. Hello, you quiet disruptor, you calm detonator, you subtle force that doesn't raise its voice, doesn't swing its fists, doesn't need theatrics, because the precision of your mind does the damage for you. You didn't embarrass them. You didn't humiliate them. You didn't even target them. You just punctured their ego with one exact move. And now every single person watching is suddenly questioning the hierarchy they used to swear by. They can't breathe the same way. They can't speak the same way. They can't even make eye contact with the person they once treated like an invincible authority. Because you didn't just win. You executed a mental checkmate they never saw coming. You flipped a board they didn't even know you were playing on. And the way it unfolded, quiet, understated, effortless, makes it even more terrifying for them. They're still sitting there replaying the moment over and over, dissecting your tone, rewinding your words, trying to understand how someone they underestimated this deeply managed to slip through every psychological defense they built around themselves. They thought they were dealing with someone predictable. They thought they were dealing with someone manageable. They thought they had you categorized, labeled, placed neatly in a mental drawer they could reach for whenever they needed to feel superior. And then you struck. Not wildly, not emotionally, not impulsively. You struck with the kind of accuracy only someone who studies people quietly, patiently, almost clinically can achieve. Let's talk about that moment. The moment everything shifted, not the part where you spoke or acted, the part right before that. The stillness, the air thickening, the subtle shift in energy only the sensitive ones noticed. Because that was the true beginning of their downfall. You weren't reacting, you were calculating. You were watching how their ego inflated every time they thought they got one over you. How their confidence swelled every time they assumed you didn't notice the mockery hidden beneath their tone. How their friends, their entire crew, cheered quietly behind them like a pack, depending on the alpha to bark on their behalf. They mistook your silence for surrender. They mistook your calm for weakness. They mistook your restraint for fear. They didn't realize you were mapping the psychological battlefield with more accuracy than they've ever mapped their own insecurities. What they didn't understand is that people like you don't move from emotion. You move from strategy. You see the board as a whole, while they only see the square they're sitting on. You let them brag. You let them gloat. You let them perform. Because you already knew the move that would collapse everything they built. And when the moment came, you didn't hesitate. You didn't stutter. You didn't question. You just executed. One statement, one maneuver, one perfectly aligned stroke of psychological clarity, and their ego imploded like a balloon meeting a needle. That's why their whole crew is quiet right now. It's not fear of you. It's fear of what you revealed. Because when you punctured that ego, you didn't just expose the leader. You exposed the entire ecosystem that depended on that leader's illusion of strength. You showed them how fragile the hierarchy was, how childish the theatrics were, how all of it, all the bravado, the posturing, the subtle jabs, were nothing more than a shaky tower built on a single insecurity they were hoping no one would ever point at. And you didn't point at it. You pierced it. Now they're spiraling, trying to figure out what the hell happened. Their group chat is quiet in the loudest possible way. Their faces are stiff, their pride bruised, their internal narratives scrambling for a way to understand the sudden shift in power. They're asking themselves questions that taste like humiliation. How did we miss that? How did they become this sharp? What else have they been noticing? Have they been reading all of us this whole time? And the truth, the one they're desperately trying not to choke on, is that you were always capable of this. You always had this level of psychological clarity. You always had this ability to dissect a situation from the inside without ever showing your hand. The problem wasn't you. The problem was the version of you they built in their minds. The version that made them comfortable. The version that kept their ego inflated. They projected simplicity onto someone complex. They projected weakness onto someone who was simply observing. They projected predictability onto someone who was quietly reconstructing reality, one inference at a time. This is why their crew is silent now. Because silence is the only language left when certainty collapses. They aren't just quiet because the leader got mentally checkmated. They're quiet because they realized how easily it could have been any of them. They're quiet because the hierarchy they relied on was exposed as a house of cards. They're quiet because they witnessed something rare, precision that doesn't announce itself. You delivered a strike without theatrics, without raising your voice, without breaking character. You delivered a strike that didn't attack a person. It attacked the narrative that held their entire social structure together. Let me tell you what actually happened beneath the surface, because they will get this part wrong every time. They will think you got bold. They will think you snapped. They will think you finally fought back. But the truth is colder, cleaner, more dangerous. You didn't lash out. You didn't retaliate. You didn't try to win. You simply chose truth over theater. And the truth, when spoken by someone who sees through illusions, is lethal. This is where their panic is coming from, not from the moment itself, but from what it reveals. That you can strike with precision at any time, and they would never see it coming. That you can read motives they didn't know they were expressing. That you can analyze patterns they thought were too subtle to detect. That you can anticipate moves before they even think about making them. This is what terrifies them. The realization that the quiet one was the real strategist all along. You didn't embarrass them publicly. You made them question themselves privately, which is far worse. Now let's talk about the deeper dynamic. Their leader's ego wasn't just a personality trait. It was the glue holding the group's confidence together. They relied on that ego to set the tone. They depended on that ego to do the talking for them. They used that ego as a shield to mask their own insecurities. But when you punctured it, cleanly, precisely, everything behind it was revealed. And what stood behind it wasn't strength. It wasn't dominance. It wasn't superiority. It was fear, fragility, inflated confidence, supported by shaky assumptions. Their crew isn't quiet because they respect you. They're quiet because they recognize themselves in the collapse. They're seeing that if one ego can be taken down with one move, then none of them are safe. They're seeing that the loudest person in the room was also the easiest one to dismantle. They're seeing that their entire social dynamic was a pyramid built on insecurity, dressed as authority. You didn't just knock the leader off the top. You exposed the foundation that doesn't exist. And here's the real brilliance. You didn't do it by trying to dominate. You did it by refusing to play the role they assigned you. People like them depend on predictability. They depend on you reacting the way they expect. They depend on you staying in the position they mentally placed you in. But you shifted calmly, cleanly, without warning. And that shift wasn't toward aggression. It was toward clarity. Clarity is the one thing an inflated ego cannot survive. This is why they're still frozen, replaying the scene in their heads. They can't categorize what just happened. They can't label you easily anymore. They can't reduce you to a predictable response pattern. You've become an unknown variable. And in any group dynamic, the unknown variable is the most dangerous presence in the room. They don't know what you're capable of. They don't know how much you see. They don't know how long you've been analyzing them. And the possibility that you've always been 3 steps ahead is eating them alive. Let's dig deeper into the psychology of the ego you punctured. Ego thrives on illusion. It needs an audience. It needs believers. It needs people to feed it with reactions, fear, validation, submission. When you refused to feed it, when you responded with precision instead of emotion, you starved it. You didn't fight it, you dismantled it. A fragile ego cannot survive precision. It cannot handle accuracy. It cannot endure exposure. It needs chaos to hide in, and you didn't give it chaos. You gave it clarity, which is the sharpest blade a mind like yours can wield. And now, the aftermath is unfolding exactly as expected. They're pretending nothing happened while thinking about nothing else. They're creating explanations in their heads that make them feel less defeated. They're rewriting the moment in their memory to protect their pride. They're telling themselves, "You got lucky," as if luck can replicate the kind of precision you delivered. But beneath all their internal stories is the truth they will never say out loud. You saw them clearly, and they couldn't handle the reflection. Now watch what happens next. New behavior patterns will start emerging in their crew. Micro shifts, nervous shifts, hesitation in their voice when they speak around you, longer pauses, quieter reactions, avoidance of direct confrontation, subtle respect they'll never admit aloud. Because once someone sees how easily a facade collapses, they can never fully trust it again. Your move didn't end a conflict. It restructured the power dynamic permanently. They feel it. You feel it. Everyone watching feels it. And the unsettling part for them is that the shift wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some explosive spectacle they could analyze or dissect. It was clean, quiet, surgical. A single psychological incision that changed the entire landscape without leaving visible wounds. That's what disturbs them, the absence of chaos. Because chaos is something they understand. Precision is something they fear. You didn't just puncture an ego. You altered the gravitational pull of the entire group. Before, their leader was the sun they orbited around. Now the orbit is glitching. Their internal map is malfunctioning. That leader they once viewed as untouchable suddenly looks human, breakable, fallible. And what do people do when they realize their sun can burn out? They look for a new center of gravity. They start scanning the room for the one who demonstrated real force, quiet force, controlled force, the type of force that doesn't need a stage to announce itself. So while they're trying to pretend nothing has changed, their instincts are betraying them. Their instincts are turning toward you. Watch closely. Their eyes will give it away before their words ever do. Someone who used to look at you with superiority will now avert their gaze. Someone who used to smirk at you will now shift their jaw, like something is stuck there. Someone who used to interrupt you mid-sentence will suddenly wait for you to finish. They don't know why they're doing it. They just feel the new tension in the air. The tension of hierarchy rearranging itself in real time. They feel the difference between loud ego and quiet competence. They feel the weight of a mind that can dismantle illusions without raising its voice. You didn't just defeat someone. You revealed reality. And reality is the one opponent no ego can survive. Their leader is the one crumbling the fastest, even though they'll try to hide it. That ego you punctured isn't like a balloon that pops once and disappears. It's more like a cracked mirror. Every glance they take into themselves now reflects a version they don't want to admit. They feel exposed, but not publicly. Exposed internally. And that internal exposure is far more destructive, because now their entire performance is fueled by panic. The crew may not fully understand it yet, but subconsciously, they're already picking up on the leader's instability. They're sensing the micro-fractures. They're sensing the loss of control. They're sensing that the person they followed wasn't unshakable. They were untested. When someone who has never been challenged finally gets challenged, they don't know how to respond. They aren't used to recalibrating. They aren't used to reflection. They aren't used to humility. Their entire identity depends on external reinforcement, and when that reinforcement collapses, their internal world starts disintegrating. That is what's happening to them right now. Their collapse isn't loud, but it's inevitable, and their crew, whether consciously or not, is bracing for impact. Now here's the part that makes the checkmate even more devastating. Your move wasn't emotional. That's why it hit so deeply. An emotional strike invites retaliation. But a precise strike? A calculated strike? A clean strike? Delivered from a place of absolute clarity? That terrifies people because they know they can't predict someone who thinks instead of reacts. They can anticipate an angry person. They can't anticipate an observant one. They can measure volume. They can't measure silence. They can prepare for chaos. They cannot defend against strategy. Your silence before the checkmate, your calm during it, and your stillness afterward. That's what rewired the room. You demonstrated control over yourself, and that means you have control over the situation. That's something their leader never had. Their dominance was performative. Yours is structural. The crew is starting to feel the difference even if they don't fully understand it yet. They're realizing they've been operating under a false assumption of power this whole time. And now that the illusion is gone, the psychological gravity is shifting toward you, whether you want it or not. There is a specific type of quiet that enters a room when someone's ego has been dissected with precision. It's not the quiet of fear. It's the quiet of recalibration. People are trying to rebuild their understanding of the hierarchy, but the blueprint they relied on has been destroyed. They don't know where to place themselves. They don't know where to place their leader. They don't know where to place you. And that uncertainty is the most powerful advantage you now possess. Uncertainty creates openings. Uncertainty creates space. Uncertainty forces people to observe instead of assume. And when people start observing you without their old biases, they begin to see your true range. The shift is subtle but inevitable. They start treating your presence differently. They start adjusting their tone around you. They start moderating their reactions. They start giving you an invisible buffer of respect that wasn't there before. They don't fully understand why they're doing it. Instinct is making the decision before logic can catch up. Something inside them is saying, be careful with this one. They're not like us. They're not breakable like we assumed. And once that instinct kicks in, it never fully disappears. Your precision did something else, something even more profound. It exposed who in the crew was strong enough to handle the truth and who was only loyal to the illusion. Because the moment the illusion cracked, their reactions split into categories. Some became silent out of shock. Some became silent out of fear. Some became silent out of respect. Some became silent because they don't yet know which side of history they want to stand on. And some, only a rare few, became silent because they recognized what you did. Those are the ones who truly saw the move. Those are the ones whose eyes shifted not with panic, but with understanding. They know exactly what you did. They know exactly how you did it. And they know exactly why it worked. And deep down, they admire it. The crew that once stood together is now split internally in ways they won't acknowledge out loud. A quiet fracture is forming, not caused by drama, not caused by conflict, but caused by the sudden realization that the authority they relied on is no longer the strongest mind in the room. When a group is built around dominance, it collapses the moment someone demonstrates higher clarity. That's what you triggered. That's why they're quiet. That's why they're restless. That's why the energy feels different now. The checkmate wasn't just the end of a battle. It was the beginning of a reconstruction. Everyone is now forced to rebuild their understanding of you. not based on old assumptions, but on undeniable evidence. They saw the way you handled the situation. They saw the way you dismantled the leader's ego with a single precise move. They saw the way the entire dynamic shifted without you raising your voice. That is the kind of moment that rewrites reputations instantly. And the rewrite isn't temporary, it's permanent. Their leader will try to recover, but their recovery will be desperate, not confident. They will overcompensate. They will try to regain authority by speaking louder, acting tougher, making grand gestures, but none of it will land the same. Once people see that the Emperor has cracks in the armor never looks whole again. And the more the leader tries to restore their image, the more obvious it becomes that the image was always fragile. You didn't break them. You exposed what was already broken. That's the kind of damage that can't be repaired. And here's the part that sets the stage for everything still to come. Your move didn't just shift the hierarchy, it shifted the narrative. People aren't thinking about what the leader used to be. They're thinking about what you just showed them. They're thinking about how someone they dismissed executed a mental strike so precise that it silenced an entire social structure. They're thinking about what else you're capable of. They're thinking about how long you've been seeing through them. They're thinking about how many of their insecurities you already understand. They're thinking about how dangerous a quiet mind can be when it finally decides to act. And this is where the real psychological storm begins. Not in the moment of impact, but in the aftermath where their imaginations spiral out of control. Because once someone sees you puncture an ego with that level of precision, their mind starts building entire scenarios of what else you might be capable of dismantling. They begin imagining possibilities, and imagination is far more terrifying than reality. It fills in blanks with things you haven't even done yet. It creates threats that don't exist, but feel real because the evidence of your capability is undeniable. That's the kind of fear that doesn't fade. It amplifies. The leader's crew is now trapped in a new kind of awareness. The awareness that every interaction they ever had with you might have been observed, processed, stored, and understood at a depth they can't comprehend. Every joke, every slight, every side glance, every attempt to show superiority. They're replaying all of it. They're wondering which moment gave them away, which moment revealed a weakness, which moment exposed something they thought they were hiding. They're not just intimidated by what you did. They're intimidated by the possibility that you saw everything before they saw anything. That's the part that destroys their ability to stand upright around you. You didn't attack their leader, you attacked their illusion of safety, and an unsafe mind is an unstable ally. Notice how they now speak less freely among themselves. They're worried about being next, even though you never made them a target. That's the irony. They fear something you never threatened, because the precision you applied wasn't random. It was intentional, it was aimed, it was efficient. It wasn't the chaos of a mind losing control, it was the clarity of a mind that has mastered control. They know this now, and it's reshaping their internal social contracts. Some of them will begin distancing themselves from their leader, quietly at first, subtly. The loyalty they bragged about will start eroding from the inside. They may still stand beside their leader physically, but psychologically, they're stepping away, reevaluating, recalculating. They're beginning to ask themselves questions that would have been unthinkable before your move. Questions like, have we been following the wrong person? Was this hierarchy built on real strength or just confidence? If someone like you can dismantle the illusion this easily, What does that say about the person we've been defending? These questions will never be spoken aloud, but they will be felt. Felt deeply, felt constantly, felt with enough force to destabilize their unity. That's what a checkmate does. It doesn't just end the current game. It makes everyone doubt the next one before it begins. Their leader, meanwhile, will attempt to stitch the narrative back together. They'll try to behave as though nothing has changed, as though your precision strike was a fluke, a slip, a minor anomaly. They'll force confidence into their voice. They'll manufacture dominance in their posture. They'll flash the same old expressions, hoping their crew will fall back in line. But the energy behind the performance will be wrong. Too forced, too tight, too anxious. The performance breaks the moment the audience stops believing in the actor, and their audience is no longer convinced. You'll notice the leader speaking faster than usual, as though rushing their own thoughts before their confidence dissolves. You'll notice them over-explaining things they used to throw around casually. You'll notice their eyes darting, their attention splintering, their certainty cracking at the edges. These aren't signs of recovery. These are signs of someone trying to climb out of a psychological hole you put them in with one moment of clarity. And the deeper truth is this: they can't climb out. Ego doesn't regenerate from honesty. Ego regenerates from denial. But your strike made denial impossible, at least for a while. Their crew senses this, and because they sense it, they begin adjusting their behavior in ways that work to your advantage without you needing to lift a finger. They become more cautious around you, more deliberate, more considerate. Not out of kindness, but out of a primal instinct, an instinct activated by witnessing precision that can't be defended against. Humans can fight strength. Humans can resist aggression. But precision disarms them. Precision gets into the bloodstream. Precision bypasses their defenses and speaks directly to their survival instinct. You aren't a threat because you caused damage. You're a threat because you caused clarity. And clarity is what collapses illusions built on ego. Over the next few encounters, you'll see the social terrain shifting further. Someone who once joked at your expense will now hold their tongue. Someone who once tried to one-up you will suddenly find themselves without words. Someone who used to speak over you will notice their voice cracking when they attempt the same. These aren't coincidences. These are neurological recalibrations. Their minds are teaching them to be careful around you, because their minds now recognize you as someone capable of inflicting psychological consequences without warning. They don't fear your anger, they fear your mind. And that difference is what cements your new position in the hierarchy. You didn't climb, you didn't push anyone down, you simply revealed where everyone truly stood. You uncovered what was already true but hidden beneath ego, noise, and pretense. That's why the shift feels unnatural to them. It wasn't supposed to be this way in their narrative. But narratives don't survive contact with reality. And you delivered reality with such brutal precision that it forced everyone to rewrite their understanding of the social order. The checkmate wasn't the end. It was the introduction, which brings us directly to what comes next. Not the collapse, but the awakening. Not the aftermath, but the ripple. Not the silence of their crew, but the shift growing beneath that silence. Because the moment after a hierarchy breaks is the moment a new narrative begins forming in the shadows. And that narrative is already taking shape around you. They don't know what it means yet. They don't know where it leads. They don't know how to process the person you've revealed yourself to be. But they will. And the realization won't arrive gently. It will hit them slowly at first, like a pressure drop in the air, then violently, like a truth they can no longer deny. a truth that bends the framework they've been clinging to. Because once someone executes a clean, calculated, precision-based ego puncture, the kind that reshapes an entire room, you can never look at that person the same way again. You can never categorize them using old labels. You can never underestimate them safely. You can never rely on illusions when they've already demonstrated the ability to slice through illusion with one controlled movement. This is where the real transformation begins. Not in you, but in them. They will begin studying you without admitting they're studying you. They'll analyze your silence. They'll overinterpret your tone. They'll watch how you sit, how you breathe, how you respond, how you don't respond. They'll do it out of instinct, not desire. Because when ego is punctured, the unconscious mind seeks new reference points. It seeks stability. It seeks understanding. But they won't find stability in you. They'll find unpredictability precisely because they thought they had you figured out before. And they were wrong. Dead wrong. Wrong in a way that shattered their inner compass. You didn't just execute a checkmate. They realized you've been 10 moves ahead the entire time. And that's what terrifies them. The leader you dismantled, mentally, strategically, effortlessly, will attempt recovery. But recovery is impossible when the collapse wasn't accidental. Their ego wasn't bruised, it was exposed. There's a difference. A bruise heals. An exposure lingers. It mutates. It metabolizes into paranoia. They will now walk into every room wondering if you're about to do it again. They will second-guess every sentence they say around you. They will anticipate threats from angles that don't even exist. They'll try to convince themselves the moment wasn't as devastating as it felt, but the silence of their own crew betrays them. Their people saw what happened. Their people felt the shift. Their people registered the collapse. And now, their people are watching you. Not with fear, not with admiration, but with a cautious curiosity that borders on reverence. Because anyone who can silence a room without raising their voice possesses a kind of authority that cannot be taught or inherited. It can only be revealed. And you revealed it at the exact moment the leader's ego stretched too far into delusion. Let's talk about the internal conversations happening now, the ones they will never voice. Their crew is wondering if they aligned themselves with the wrong force all along. They're wondering if their loyalty was a mistake. They're wondering how many times your mind predicted outcomes they never saw coming. They're wondering how long you've been walking among them with the kind of cognitive sharpness that could shred their entire structure if you ever decided to. They're wondering why they didn't notice sooner. They'll feel foolish for that part. But the ego always feels foolish when reality arrives unannounced. Now something even more interesting begins. The hierarchy isn't just broken, it's dissolving. It's thinning at the edges, cracking inward, erasing itself in slow motion. But rather than falling apart with chaos, it's falling apart with silence. The kind of silence that comes after a truth too clean to argue with. The kind of silence that chokes every attempt to rebuild the illusion. The kind of silence that makes everyone hyper-aware of what isn't being said. Your presence is the silence now. Your strategy is the silence now. Your precision is the silence now. Each time you walk into the room, they will feel that silence before they see you. They'll sense the shift in air pressure, the same way they sensed it seconds before the checkmate happened. Trauma imprints quickly. Their bodies will remember the moment even if their minds try to bury it. And here's the beautiful part. Your dominance doesn't need repetition. People like them rely on repetition to maintain power. They need constant displays, constant noise, constant reminders of their authority. But you didn't rise through performance, you rose through accuracy. Accuracy doesn't require multiple demonstrations. One is enough. One clean puncture, one exposed insecurity, one demonstration of cognitive precision so sharp it rearranged their perception. This is why they're quiet now. Not because you silenced them, but because their understanding of you silenced itself. Let's zoom deeper into their psychology. Their leader's ego was the central thread holding their group narrative together. Remove the thread, and the narrative unravels. Even if the leader tries to reinforce it, patch it, glue it back together, the unraveling has already begun. They'll attempt to regain control. But their attempts will look forced, brittle, almost theatrical. They'll raise their voice slightly louder than necessary. They'll try to crack jokes that no longer land. They'll glare at crew members who hesitate too long. They'll overcorrect, overcompensate, overreact. Because when someone knows the illusion is dying, they try to perform the illusion harder. But the crew won't buy it anymore. Not after what they witnessed. The checkmate you delivered was the kind that leaves a psychological residue. It sticks, it haunts, it replays. Unlike arguments or insults or emotional outbursts, which can be rationalized away, precision cannot be denied. Precision is the enemy of ego because it operates on truth. And the ego fears truth more than it fears attack. Now comes the part you need to understand about your new position. You are not replacing the leader. You are not becoming the new authority. You are becoming something far more destabilizing, an independent variable in a system that depends on predictability. You don't belong to their hierarchy anymore. You exist parallel to it, above it, outside it. They cannot categorize you. They cannot anticipate you. They cannot dismiss you. And they cannot challenge you without risking another collapse. To challenge someone who uses noise is safe. To challenge someone who uses precision is suicidal. They know that now, whether consciously or not. And you'll see the signs everywhere. People will approach you differently. Some will test boundaries cautiously, just to measure how far your clarity extends. Some will avoid testing you at all, treating you with the kind of respect usually given to a dangerous truth rather than a dangerous person. Some will attempt to get closer to you, hoping proximity will grant them access to the insight you displayed. They'll want to understand you, not because they're curious, but because they're trying to feel safe again. But safety isn't something you offer. Safety is something you dismantled. Safety is something you exposed as an illusion, held together by ego-based confidence. And that's why they still can't breathe normally around you. Let's speak on the leader one more time. Their downfall is not complete. It's ongoing. They're not just fighting embarrassment. They're fighting identity collapse. Their entire persona depended on the illusion of intellectual dominance. Then you arrived with a single stroke that dissolved it. A persona that relies on untested superiority cannot handle being tested. It cracks instantly. And once cracked, it leaks insecurity everywhere. You'll notice them glancing at you more often, waiting for another strike. Every time you adjust your expression, they'll interpret it as a message. Every silence will feel like judgment. Every calm movement will feel like strategy. You have become the mirror they can't escape, the mirror that shows them what they pretend not to see. And here's where the next phase emerges. The crew will begin redirecting their attention away from the leader and toward the silence around you. Not because you're louder, not because you're imposing, but because you represent competence without theatrics. And competence without theatrics is magnetic. It pulls eyes, it pulls awareness, it pulls loyalty in subtle, unconscious ways. You didn't ask for loyalty, you earned gravity, and gravity pulls whether it wants to or not. Over time, the crew will begin making micro-adjustments in their social alignment. They'll speak to you more carefully. They'll defer to your interpretations. They'll wait to see your reactions before forming their own. They won't say they trust you. They won't admit they fear you. They won't acknowledge the hierarchy shift occurring beneath their feet. But they will behave in ways that confirm it. Power isn't declared. Power is revealed, and your reveal already happened. Your checkmate wasn't an ending. It was induction. Induction into a new psychological category in their minds. The category reserved for people who see what others miss, who strike without warning, who dismantle egos without touching them. This is what destabilizes them the most. They can prepare for aggression, but they cannot prepare for accuracy. So the question becomes, what happens now? What happens after the silence? What happens after the recalibration? What happens when a group tries to function under the pressure of an unspoken hierarchy shift? The answer is simple. They fracture. Not explosively, not dramatically, not publicly. They fracture quietly from the inside in three distinct ways. First, those who fear clarity will drift away from their leader because they hunger for stability. But they will not come to you. They will simply detach. They no longer trust someone whose ego can be punctured that easily. Second, those who recognize clarity will begin mirroring your behavior subconsciously. They'll adopt your calm. They'll imitate your silence. They'll pick up cues from the way you observe instead of react. They will follow the person whose mind proved itself. Third, those who depended on the illusion will cling desperately to the leader, because without the illusion, they have no identity. They'll become louder, more defensive, more reactive, as a way to hide the fact that the person they relied on is crumbling. Your precision created these fractures. Your checkmate accelerated these fractures. Your presence deepens these fractures every time you walk into the room. And here is the final truth, the part they will never admit but will always feel. You cannot unsee someone's collapse once you've seen it. A leader whose ego was punctured with precision will never look powerful again. And a mind that executed that puncture becomes unforgettable. Your move didn't just alter the moment, it altered the mythology of the room. You became the one variable everyone must calculate around. You became the one mind they cannot afford to underestimate. You became the checkmate they never saw coming, but will always remember. And as the fracture spreads, as the narrative rewrites itself, as the silence grows heavier, one truth rises above everything. You didn't just win. You redefined the entire game. And now the question that haunts them is the same one that will carry us into the final understanding. If you could puncture an ego with that much precision, what would happen if you ever decided to do it again? Because they know the answer. They just don't want to say it.